Oi! Yes! What's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night, and I think you know what that means, right? That means it's time for Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. 10 o'clock p.m. Central Time, check. Paloma, not tonight. Almost out of tequila, almost out of grapefruit soda, and just wanted to get to business. But we got Bootsy ready in the background here. We've got 14 fights to break down for the UFC Austin card that's coming up this Saturday. That's going to be headlined by Calvin Kattar against Josh Emmett. Should be an absolute banger there in the featherweight division between two strikers with a ton of power. Can't wait for that main event. And we've got a great main card. We've got a great undercard. Really only a couple of crappy fights on this one. So I am really fired up to break it down with you guys, everybody in the chat. First, let's talk about last week. Ass shaving of the week, not a good pick for me. It came through. Brendan Allen did win, but boy, oh boy, it was a lot closer than I would have liked it to be. You know, when I pick an ass shaving of the week, I want them to win convincingly. That one did not go to plan, so not good, but at least we've got two in a row. We're starting to build on something there. The tracked bets for me last week were down 1.9 units, 3 straight losing weeks for your Uncle Weezy here. All the losses were less than 2 units, but still, definitely got to get out of this hole. Definitely got to start stacking some winning events here like flapjacks over the next few weeks. So I'm looking to get back into the plus money this week. Very important to me. 3.4 units on the Naliang under 2.5. That one cashed beautifully. I had a parlay with the Brendan Allen money line and the under 3.5 rounds in the main event. That one did not cash. And the probability parlay, which was fight doesn't go to decision for Teixeira Prochaska, fight doesn't go to decision for Nao Liang, and fight goes to decision for Zhang Weili, did not come through either. So both of my parlays had one leg that busted. So lost 1.9 units on the week. Ready to get back into it this week and make some money. Got my ass shaving of the week ready. I've got a 4-leg parlay that's clocking in at plus 1,300 or better right now on FanDuel, which is going to be eligible for insurance. So I'm fired up to give that one to you at the end of the show. And as always, we're going to finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. We're hoping to stack 3 winning ass shavings in a row and keep getting us something to build on here in the future, you guys. But let's see what's going on here with everybody in the chat. My guy Brandon first in the room saying, let's go. Just the Tip Tuesdays. Good to see you in here, Brandon. Mushroom saying, oi. Yes, what's up, Uncle Weezy? Ass shavings, orange bag beatings, flapjacks, greasy parlays, and violence. The big 5. No better way to spend a Tuesday night. Let's fucking go, Mushroom. What's up, G? Mark Schillingberg. Going live with Weezy. Oi, I got my ass shaved last week badly. It wasn't a shaving for me. I didn't get rinsed, but I was down with you there, Mark. It was my first bad night in MMA in a while. Ready for a nice bounce back. Let's go. Let's get it, dude. We got my guy DFS by the numbers in the room. Deron Winn is out. Oh, God damn it. Phil Hawes currently looking for a replacement. Not surprised at all. I figured he would just pull out right before the weigh-in after he had to hang his head in shame and show up at like 202 pounds. But yeah, you know, I mean, like I heard he was out with hurt feelings earlier in the week. Now we're hearing it again. We'll see if it winds up being true. But my guy DFS by the numbers in here, we appreciate you. My guy JSJ, ring a ding ding. First donation of Just the Tip on Tuesday with here's to this hopefully being the last time Weezy has to break down Phil Hawes versus Deron Winn. I'll tell you, Jazz, it better be. It better be, man, because if he doesn't show up one more time for this fight and they make Phil Hawes wait for a guy who clearly doesn't want to fight him, you know, Phil Hawes has been waiting for this fight since October of last year, you guys. So this is screwing him over. Deron Winn seriously better show up this time because if he doesn't, Phil Hawes should be owed some money, you know, because he's been there waiting to fight. And then this guy pulls out at the last minute 2 different times. And then, you know, Phil Hawes doesn't get paid if he doesn't fight. So, yeah, let's hope, Jazz, that this is the last time I have to break this one down. And Papa Chuck saying at DFS by the numbers, that is the fact Deron should just get cut. And I'm saying hello to JSJ here, and thanks for the donation. And when went out with hurt feelings, and my guy Victor Jesus saying, "Oi, yes, what's up, Weezy in chat? Just a heads up, I'm busy as fuck at work, but I'm all ears for the whole show. Can't wait to see you shaving ass this week, Victor. It's good to see you in here, man. I appreciate you hanging out, even though you're at work, man. It's awesome." And my guy F. Carrillo saying, "Phil Hawes with the eyes." And Daz File saying, "Man, I won money on Deron Winn. Can't remember who he fought, but was such a laugh. Was worth the bet alone. He's the mini DC. It was probably against his 2 wins were against Antonio Arroyo and Eric Spicely. So it was one of those 2 fights that you won money on him if it was a UFC win. But that Antonio Arroyo win, he got a ton of takedowns. And Deron Winn's a fantastic wrestler. And then ring a ding ding, you guys. My guy F. Carrillo, always in here every damn week in the chat, hitting that big up button, supporting the show. We appreciate you, F. Carrillo. You are the man, and thank you for supporting the show. And he says, ass shaving of the week grind, Uncle Weezy. Yes, sir. And I've got it ready for you guys. I already know who I like for this week. Cole Stein saying, "What up, Unc? Excited to hear what you got. I'm excited to give it to you guys." Jeremiah Nicola said, "I haven't had a losing week in quite a few cards, and it's all because you and the boys. Much love." I appreciate you, Jeremiah. Blue Betya saying, "I'm excited to see Cerrone this week." Yeah, dude, Cerrone, it will be fun. Hopefully nobody pulls out of that one last minute, too. F. Carrillo saying, "Drop that dono, Jeremiah." He's shaming him into a donation. We got Addicted to Combat saying, "What's up, Unc? Great card on deck this week." Dude, fantastic card this week. So many great fights. Can't wait to break it down with you guys. Jeremiah Nicola saying, "I hear you, Carrillo." And then he's in here, my man, Jeremiah Nicola, ring a ding ding with the donation for his Uncle Weezy. Much love to you, Jeremiah. Let's keep stacking those winning events and those winning tickets like flapjacks, man, because that's how we build a bankroll. That's how we make some money off of these bookies, and it makes betting on the fights even more fun, as if just sitting down and watching a fist fight isn't fun enough. So let's get it, man. And Papa Chuck saying, "Let's shave some flapjacks and stack some asses." That is absolutely what we're here to do, Papa Chuck. Premtro saying, "Oi, big bet on Holland at -230. Hope to see him as your ass shaving of the week." You're going to have to tune in till the end, Premtro. But I am a fan of Kevin Holland. I got to watch a lot of tape on him today, and it was a lot of fun. Jorge Montero saying, "Been a while since I got excited for a card from the betting perspective. I'm getting drunk Saturday, and hopefully I wake up rich or with a lot of girl problems." And we got Daz Files with the virtual hug at Jeremiah Nicola. Much love, Jeremiah, for the donation. Appreciate you, man. And M.A. Laren saying, "Oi, good morning, Weezy in chat. It's been a bit since I could catch this live. Let's make those winning ticket flapjack towers. Let's go, man." DJ saying, "Too bad they scratched JP buys from this card. Was looking forward to some JP Dolidze love triangle altercation." Man, that would have been so fucking low class if the UFC did that. To poor JP buys. It's bad enough that your wife leaves you, and then starts cheating on you with another fighter, but to make them fight on the same card, I just think, because I know that they were originally scheduled to both be on the same card, and it's like, UFC, come on, man. They're doing that shit on purpose, trying to stir the pot, and I just don't think it's classy at all. But, we like drama, and that would be certainly a very dramatic situation. And DJ saying also, "Oi!" And Daz Files saying, let's cash stack tickets like flapjacks. Let's go, baby. Yeah, Winn pulled out too. and Travis saying, "Where's my uncle?" MMA Code saying, "Oi, got my weed in my notebook. Let's go, let's go." That's how you watch the show right there. Zach Singleton saying, "Oi, let's go." Tristan Sherhouse saying, "Let's go, Weezy." Jeff K saying, "All I have right now is gin." Nothing wrong with some gin, Jeff. That's pretty good. Andy MG saying, "Oi, this is a great card, Uncle Weezy. Fired up for this one." Appreciate you, Andy. Thanks for coming out. And we got Lou Betcha. The fights to Paloma ratio is way off tonight. Yeah, that's for sure. But I don't have a Paloma with me tonight. Got a nice glass of water, though. God, that water's delicious. Got to stay hydrated. Got to keep the whistle wet so that we can talk for 2 hours straight. Hardest working man in MMA, looking sharp, sir. Appreciate you, joint smoker. We got Jarno Portilla all the way from Finland saying, hell yeah, let's go. What's up, Jarno? Hey, Uncle Weezy says, Mr. D. Rob Lawrence says, oi. And we got, let's see, where are we? DeRobe is online. You got that right, man. We got the smoking jacket on here. We are ready for just the tip. Keep it cool saying, oh, yes. What's up? Keep it cool. Rob Lawrence saying, I'm tired and high as fuck. Got to work in the morning. Going to stay up for a little. Let's do this. Let's do it, Rob. Cuban Assassin in the room saying, Weezy, Wheeze, let's get that cheese. Saw Deron Winn is on the card. That guy's stand-up is worse than Brendan Schaub's comedy stand-up. Yeah, dude, it's hard to have good stand-up when you're 5'6" in the middleweight division, man. I mean, you're going to just be fighting guys that are way taller than you. He might as well wrestle. And keep it cool saying, oh, yes, time to grease up, stack cash, and shave ass. Let's go. DK saying, smoothest capper on the YouTubes. Unk the GOAT. Appreciate you, DK. Any Action Sportscast saying, what's good? Oi. And then we got my guy Mark Schillingberg, ring-a-ding-ding with the donation, keeping the lights on here. And Uncle Weezy saying, Weezy, I appreciate the hell out of you and all the hard work you do to give us all this info and your thoughts on these fights. Much love. Let's rate these books. Let's do it, Mark. Thank you so much for supporting the show, brother. It means a lot. Prince of Mischief saying, what's up, Weezy? Can I get an oi? Yes. Yes, you can. That we do it every damn week here, man. And we got DK ring-a-ding-ding with the donation saying, appreciate you, Unc. I appreciate the donation. I appreciate the $5, DK. Let's get some more money this weekend. And F. Carrillo saying, what's up to Jeremiah for donating. Mushroom, my guy, saying live resin cartridges, Munchies, and Uncle Weezy. Nothing else needed. Love you, man. Nathan saying smoking weed, eating a Whopper Jr., trying to turn it into prime rib. Let's get this money. Looking forward to hearing that greasy four-legger. Let's go. Weezy says, Ice Viking, thank you for coming by, Ice Viking. Roman, the wife stealer, needs to go down, man. Well, he's got a tough matchup against Kyle Daukaus, and that's how we're going to start it out. Papa Chuck saying we need to get Unca Salvation Army Bell to ring and all the donuts. Yeah, man, that would be so cool, dude. I got to get one of those. I'm going to get that for sure. So we could go you can actually hear ring a ding ding instead of me having to say ring a ding ding. But guess what? Let's see here. If my guy, there he is. Look at Smooth Jimmy. I mean, you think I'm smooth with this robe, dude? Look at that guy there, man. He's got the cigar, the suit, the prop with the giant lock. I think that Miami is Smooth Jimmy's lock of the week. So you got to bet on Miami over Cincinnati this week. But let's see what he's got for us in the MMA fights. We got 14 of them to break down today, you guys. So we got our work cut out for us. Let's get into it. First fight, the curtain jerker right now, according to UFC stats, is Roman Dolidze, the wife stealer, against Kyle Daukaus. So yeah, Kyle Daukaus 4 years younger. He's 1 inch taller, and these guys have the same reach. Daukaus is a southpaw fighting out of Martinez BJJ, and it's Extreme Couture now for Roman Dolidze. It's going to be Daukaus with the experience advantage here with 4 more pro fights, about 50 more minutes in the pro cage, and they've been pros for about the same amount of time. Daukaus also has 2 more fights at the UFC level, and he's got about 20 more minutes in the UFC cage. Both of these guys are great finishers, you guys. 82% finish rate here for Daukaus, 77% finish rate for Dolidze. But it's important to note that Dolidze is a little bit more of an equal opportunity finisher. He can finish you with a knockout. He can finish you with a sub, while Kyle Daukaus really does rely on his submission game to end fights. And even when he's hurting people on the feet, he tends to hurt people on the feet and then go to the wrestling, because it's very clear to me that Kyle Daukaus is way more comfortable grappling than he is striking. While Dolidze is also a very credentialed submission grappler, BJJ player, European champion, if I'm not mistaken. So both of these guys are excellent grapplers, and they both got serviceable stand-up for the middleweight division. When we look at the numbers on how these guys are doing, Roman Dolidze with very low volume, but really good striking ratios. Lands 2.36, only absorbs 1.4. He's also throwing more volume than his opponents. Good accuracy here, sitting around 50%. And he's landed a knockdown in 4 fights. So he's showing a little bit of power. 64.5% striking defense, and he's never been knocked down. And he throws more volume than his opponents. Same thing with Daukaus here. He lands about a half more significant strike per minute than he absorbs. And he's also throwing about 1.4 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents are. 54% striking accuracy is excellent. 40% striking defense is not excellent. So definitely Dolidze is going to be the more defensively responsible striker here, but I believe that Kyle Daukaus will be the guy throwing more volume, as he is just a little bit more higher volume than Dolidze is. Dolidze is not a guy putting combinations together. He's definitely a one strike at a time guy. Dolidze in the grappling numbers here, he's 9 of 17 on his takedowns over 4 UFC fights, averaging almost 3 takedowns per 15 minutes. And he's out-controlling his opponents 43% to 6%. So it's about a 7-to-1 ratio of control time for to control time against for Roman Dolidze. And he's not even out-takedowning his opponents at a 2-to-1 ratio. So great efficiency in the grappling here for Dolidze. Now, Daukaus is out-controlling his opponents 39.3% to 21.1%, which is good. And it's clear that he is more comfortable grappling, as 60% of his UFC cage time of about 68.7 minutes has been taking place in the grappling realm here. So this guy is definitely going to try to win minutes on the ground. But as we can see so far, it's been Dolidze that's been the more efficient grappler and the guy that's been winning more minutes on the ground. This is a little bit alarming here. Daukaus has 11 takedowns on 35 attempts. So he's getting his takedowns at a 31% clip. Not great, not horrible. 2.4 takedowns per 15 minutes. Very active with submission attempts, as is Dolidze here. But yeah, about 40% control time for, 21% control time against. But the thing is that he's got 11 takedowns and he's only allowed 3. So he's almost getting 4 takedowns for every 1 takedown that his opponent is getting. But he's only out controlling his opponents at less than a 2-to-1 ratio. So I would say that Daukaus hasn't been quite as efficient on the ground and in the grappling exchanges, winning minutes, as Roman Dolidze has thus far. But it's also very important to note that the strength of schedule here is quite different, as we see Roman Dolidze with a 0.5 ratio in his competition overall, while for Daukaus it's 1.85. And we see that Daukaus is also fighting the more experienced competition. Neither one of these guys is beating people with winning records, but Dolidze's wins have been bottom of the barrel thus far, as his opponents have a 0.25 win-to-loss ratio. And Daukaus is also beating losing competition, and neither one of these guys is beating guys with a lot of UFC fights either. And the losses are better for Daukaus as well. We can see here the names: Brendan Allen, Phil Hawes, Kevin Holland, and then a couple of lower-level names in Pickett and Stoltzfus for Daukaus. But really, we just see low-level here. You know, Ibragimov 0-4, John Allen 0-3, Trevin Giles is a 500 fighter, but you know, not a great one certainly. And he's a welterweight now. He's not even a middleweight. And then Staropoli, who's another welterweight who had to move up. So yeah, Dolidze's wins are not impressive, and the loss against Trevin Giles is not confidence inspiring here. So yeah, I mean, I see 2 grapplers. You know, and I see Dolidze doing a better job of getting the takedowns, but I just think Daukaus does more. And I think that Daukaus is way, way more likely to land something on the feet that changes the trajectory of this fight. Even if Daukaus can't get a takedown, I think he might be able to hurt Dolidze on the feet and then use his striking to set up his grappling here. But Daukaus has also shown really good takedown defense here. And I think this is going to be the most important stat of the fight, is that, you know, he's defended 19 of 22 takedown attempts in 6 fights for an 86.36% takedown defense, while Roman Dolidze has been taken down on 5 times out of the 8 attempts of his opponents. So he's showing less than 50% takedown defense. So it inspires me to believe that not only do I believe that Daukaus is going to be better on the feet, but I think that he'll probably be better on the ground as well, and maybe be able to dictate the grappling exchanges and whether he can get on top. I also like the experience, the size advantage, and the strength of schedule advantage. So my best bet for this fight, and I've totally forgot. I have the banners up here for you guys. And yes, as always, we are aiming to have pick pockets thicker than Parker Porter, you guys. And so in order to do that, we got to cash some bets. And Roman Dolidze is a big underdog here at plus 210. Kyle Daukaus sitting at minus 250. The fight doesn't go to decision. Right there at even money with the fight goes at minus 110. For me, my favorite bet for this fight is going to be the fight goes to decision. As we can see here that neither one of these guys in 3 combined career losses has ever been finished. And because Daukaus and Dolidze are both very high-level black belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I don't really see either one of them getting submitted here. And Roman Dolidze is not somebody who's striking, I think, we have to worry about knocking people out. That knockout of Ibragimov was about one of the luckiest things that I've ever seen. He was trying to throw a head kick, and Ibragimov ducked into his knee. I mean, he didn't even mean to kick to knee him. It was just lucky. So I really believe that this fight's going to go to decision. My favorite bet for this fight is the fight goes at minus 120 right now, and I believe that's available on FanDuel. So yeah, the pick is going to be Kyle Daukaus by decision. Next fight, Phil Hawes against Deron Winn. Now, as you guys know, I've broken this fight down 2 times already. This fight was supposed to happen. Let's get it right for you guys, just so I'm not talking out of school here. So this fight was supposed to happen July of 2021, and then again in October of 2021. And both times, Deron Winn pulled out with a rib injury in July, and then he just withdrew the week of in September. And, one thing that we got to keep in mind about Deron Winn is the fact that this guy, he never makes weight. So against Arroyo, it wound up being a catch weight at 195. Against Colin Moore in a wrestling match in 2020, he weighed in at 213 pounds. Against Meerschaert, he actually made weight against Meerschaert. I think this is the only time we've seen him make weight so far. Darren Stewart, he missed weight, showing up at 188. And against Spicely, did he make weight against Spicely? He did, 185. And then before that, we see him basically fighting at 205. So, for the problem with Winn here is that he's fighting the scale as much as he is fighting Phil Hawes. And when you got Phil Hawes standing across from you, believe me, that's enough. You don't want to be fighting the scale too. So Deron Winn, 1 year younger. Phil Hawes is going to be 6 inches taller and have a 7-inch reach advantage. Deron Winn's built like a bowling ball. So he's just a very unique body type for a middleweight. And he really is probably not going to even make weight. So very interesting, but a huge size advantage here for Hawes. A big-time experience advantage for Hawes as well, as he's got 4 more pro fights and about 15 more minutes in the cage, 1 more UFC fight, and it's Deron Winn who actually has 20 more minutes in the UFC cage. Finish rates, we got an 82% finish rate and 11 wins for Hawes, and a 57% finish rate for Winn in 7 wins. And Winn has been submitted in 1 of his 2 losses, and Phil Hawes has been finished in both of his pro losses, once by submission, once by knockout. In the striking, it's going to be Hawes all day here. He lands more than he absorbs. His opponents throw more than him, though. But he's really accurate up here at 58.26, and he's landed 2 knockdowns in 5 fights. So he's landing a knockdown on 1.5% of the significant strikes that he's landing, and he's averaging 0.77 knockdowns per 15 minutes. So he's definitely the guy that's going to be landing the heavier strikes here. Deron Winn, with only a 70-inch reach in the middleweight division, it's going to be very hard for him to have striking success against anybody not named Eric Spicely, who's just, bottom of the barrel for the UFC level for striking. So, this is going to be a problem matchup for Winn. On the feet, Winn gets pieced up and probably knocked out. But what Winn will do is absolutely sell out for the wrestling. And 36 takedown attempts in 4 fights is evidence of that. And Deron Winn is a fantastic wrestler. 2-time national champion, Division II, Olympic team member. This guy is, as legit of a freestyle wrestler as there is in the UFC, really. Guys like Malkoun, guys like Maximov, these guys that can just wrestle and wrestle and wrestle. Winn doesn't have great conditioning, for sure. He doesn't have nearly the conditioning that Maximov or Malkoun has, but what he does have is the ability to get the fights to the ground. Now, is he going to land ground and pound down there? No, not really. Is he going to work for submissions down there? No, not at all. He hasn't even attempted a submission at the UFC level in 4 fights, despite the fact that he's averaging 5 takedowns for 15 minutes and has controlled his opponents for almost 20 minutes on the ground. So Deron Winn, is about as one-dimensional as it gets. It's wrestling and it's nothing else. And we do know that as an Olympic wrestler, it's a 7-minute match. So his ability to be able to push a wrestling-heavy game plan for a full 15 minutes really isn't there either. But he is excellent at out-controlling his opponents, 33% to 2.3%. So, but Phil Hawes is an excellent wrestler, and he's a junior college national champion. So, it's Deron Winn is going to be the better wrestler here, but there's levels to this, and Phil Hawes is almost on Deron Winn's level. So that's huge because Deron Winn is so one-dimensional that if he's not out wrestling you, go look at his career. He's never beating anybody that he's not out wrestling, except for Eric Spicely. Like I said, he won a striking match against Eric Spicely. But Phil Hawes has shown 100% takedown defense thus far in the UFC, and he's out-controlling his opponents at about a 4-to-1 ratio. So it's a nightmare matchup. Deron Winn's going to be outclassed on the feet. And we've seen Hawes really kind of shore up his conditioning lately, which is a very good step in the right direction. If Winn does actually make this cut down to 186 and does it successfully, I think he's going to be very sucked out. I think he's going to be not very good on fight day. So I'm liking Phil Hawes a lot here. I think that, he's beating the better competition in terms of ratio for sure. Deron Winn really hasn't had any, the Arroyo win, a guy with 0 takedown defense, and then he outboxed Aaron Spicely. He lost to Meerschaert by sub because he didn't want to be on the ground with a good submission grappler. And he lost a split decision to Stewart because even though he was able to wrestle Stewart all 3 rounds, he wrestled him, but he took him down and did nothing with it. So the entire time that the fight was on the feet, he was just getting pieced up by Stewart. He made Stewart look like Cassius Clay out there. So I am looking for Phil Hawes to win this fight, win it violently in the very first round. Let's not forget the Jacob Malkoun win. I think Jacob Malkoun is just a better MMA wrestling version of Deron Winn because he's got better boxing and because his conditioning is 2-3 times better than Deron Winn. So Phil Hawes just melted Jacob Malkoun, and Deron Winn is like a dollar store version of Jacob Malkoun right now. So I am predicting Phil Hawes to win this one. First round knockout. My best bet for this fight is going to be Phil Hawes inside the distance. And like I say, I think it's going to be a first round knockout here for Deron Winn. Next fight, Cody Stamann is a giant favorite over Eddie Wineland. Minus 550 for Stamann, plus 385 for Wineland, and the fight doesn't go to decision. Is sitting at plus money here at plus 130. So Stamann is 5 years younger. It's going to be Wineland who's the bigger man with a 1 inch of height and 5 inches of reach. They're both orthodox fighters, both coming from the same part of the country, the Midwest. Michigan, stand up. Cody Stamann, your boy, is there. And then Indiana, stand up. We got Eddie Wineland in the house. Both of these guys are Americans. We got Eddie Wineland, 15 more professional fights than Cody Stamann, but only 20 more minutes in the pro cage. So the fact that Wineland is 5 years older is significant, But he also, while he has an experience advantage, it's not a huge experience advantage. It's a time thing. But he's getting to that point where he's getting worn down at 37 years of age. And Stamann almost as many minutes in the pro cage as Wineland. 19-year career here for Eddie Wineland. So he's been fighting since he was 18 years old. And Cody Stamann's been doing this for 10 and a half years. It's Wineland with 5 more UFC level fights and 20 more minutes in the UFC cage. So Wineland is the bigger, longer fighter here, 5-inch reach advantage, 1 inch of height, 15 more pro fights, 20 more minutes in the UFC cage, 20 more minutes in the pro cage, 5 more UFC fights, 15 more pro fights. If we look at the finish rates for these guys, it's Wineland who's the finisher, the much better finisher. 80% finish rate in 24 wins for Wineland. And he's finished 5 of his 6 UFC wins inside the distance, all of them by knockout. In Wineland's 9 UFC losses, he's been knocked out in 4 of them, and he's lost 5 by decision. And he's been finished at a 60% rate as a pro in 15 losses. Stamann has never finished any of his 5 UFC wins, and he's got a 43% win rate as a pro. He's lost 2 of his 4 UFC losses are by submission, but he's never been knocked out in his career. The striking numbers here. Eddie Wineland is a very unique striker. He keeps his hands down. Everything comes from very strange angles. And he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. He has a 29.5% striking accuracy. That doesn't really get the job done, but what he does have is power. This guy is landing 8 knockdowns in 15 UFC fights. He's landing a knockdown on over 1.5% of the significant strikes that he lands. And he's averaging 0.8 knockdowns per 15 minutes. Also, he's showing a really nice striking defense of 62%. And he's been knocked down 4 times in 15 fights. He's getting knocked down 0.4 times per 15 minutes. Now, Stamann is landing more than he absorbs, while Wineland absorbs more than he lands. Stamann very defensively responsible, good accuracy, but he gets out-volumed a little bit by his opponents. But Stamann's a good boxer. He's throws in combination. He's accurate, but he's not powerful, and we know that. Cody Stamann is really going to be trying to use his wrestling to win minutes. And I think he's going to have to do that here against Wineland in order to be comfortable, because Wineland's a unique challenge. It's hard to prepare for in the striking because, Wineland does things his own way. He's very unique. Wineland, not a wrestler. And we can see here that he's done a fantastic job of keeping his fights at striking distance. 3.22% control time for, 5.4% control time against. So about 91% of Eddie Wineland's 150 minutes in the UFC cage has taken place at striking range, where he's most comfortable and where he's most likely to be able to land that big shot, get that knockout, because that's how he's won 5 of his 6 UFC fights. Stamann is looking to wrestle here, as he's attempted 56 takedowns in 10 fights, and he's gotten 24 of them. 43% takedown accuracy is excellent. 2.78 takedowns for 15 minutes is excellent. And he's out-controlling his opponents at about a 2-to-1 ratio here. And he's out-takedowning his opponents at about a 2-to-1 ratio. But what I think is impressive is that Cody Stamann has 56 takedown attempts and his opponents have 54. So even though Cody's opponents have attempted just as many takedowns as Cody has, Cody's out-controlling his opponents at a 2-to-1 ratio. So he's been very efficient in being able to win minutes on the ground. And Wineland has been excellent and very efficient at keeping fights on the feet. And we can see that here, that in 15 fights, he's faced 45 takedown attempts, and he's stuffed 42 of them for a 93.33% takedown defense. And like I say, only a 5% control time allowed. So, Cody's going to have his work cut out for him trying to get this guy down, because Wineland, because he stands so far away, because he keeps his hands down, because he punches from odd angles, it's easy for him to kind of dig those underhooks when people shoot in on him, and turn them and then get his ass to the center of the cage and back out of there. So Stamann is probably going to have to box with this guy unless he can get him down. And if he boxes with him, it's going to be Wineland that's got the power. It's going to be Wineland that's probably going to be landing the bigger, more eye-catching strikes. If we look at the strength of schedule here, it's Cody Stamann who's facing the much better brand of competition. 2.36 ratio to 1.26 for Wineland. And they're both fighting experienced guys, but it's Wineland who's fighting, beating, and losing to the more experienced guys. But it's Stamann who's fighting, beating, and losing to the better win-loss ratio competition. And we could see it here. You know, the losses to studs like Castaneda, Sean O'Malley, Alejandro Turbo Perez, Johnny Dodson. The only win in the last 5 is over Gregory Popov, who's 0-2 in the UFC. Cody Stamann losing to guys like Jimmy Rivera, Merab Dvalishvili, Saeed Nurmagomedov, a draw against Song Yadong, and a win against Brian Kelleher. So you can definitely tell that, you know, Cody's facing guys that have better win-loss records here and probably the better level of competition. But, you know, Eddie's 37. He just doesn't appear to, you know, be at a point where he's going to be improving. So, I mean, I see why Cody Stamann is minus 550. And what's Cody Stamann by decision? Cody Stamann by decision is minus money. It's juiced to minus 130, minus 110 on FanDuel. Dude, I would not touch this fight with a 10-foot pole. The only line that seems interesting to me is Wineland by KO plus 700. Might be worth a sprinkle, but I'm not going to be touching this fight because I don't want my money anywhere near Eddie Wineland. And to lay minus 550 on a guy like Stamann, who has really needed to wrestle effectively in order to win minutes, and then you put him out there against a guy in Wineland who's been, made it his point of his career to just stuff takedowns and keep fights standing. And he's been doing that successfully since he was 19 years old. So, this feels like dog or pass to me. But, is your Uncle Weezy's money going to be getting anywhere near a 37-year-old Eddie Wineland who's lost 4 out of his last 5? Probably not. But you never know. Maybe the Mustache Mafia rides one more time and he gets one more knockout here and then maybe just retires. But I don't think it's likely, and I'm very, very confident that my money will not be on this fight. The pick's going to be Stamann by decision. The best bet, maybe Wineland by KO at plus 700, or if we can find better than that. But, I mean, am I betting that? No chance, you guys. So let's move on to the next fight. Ugh. Whoa. All right. Hang on. Oh, God. Maria Oliveira against Gloria de Paula. Well, they're both young. Maria's only 25, and she's got 17 pro fights. That's pretty good. Gloria de Paula, 26, 10 pro fights. I think her partner is Myra Bueno Silva, if I'm not mistaken. They're both 5'5". Maria Oliveira, 2 inches of reach. Maria Oliveira, 7 more pro fights and about 30 more minutes in the pro cage. Let me see here. Hang on. Maria Oliveira size advantage. Maria Oliveira experience advantage. Gloria de Paula UFC level experience advantage. Finish rates better for Oliveira, 66% to only 50% for de Paula. And Maria's been finished in 3 of her 5 losses, and de Paula's been only finished in 1 of her 4 losses. So de Paula a little more durable than Oliveira. You might remember Oliveira is the girl that quit against Marina Rodriguez, but Rodriguez was shaving her ass to be fair. So, but still, Maria Oliveira has pulled a quit job here. And the numbers thus far, landing 4.1, absorbing 5.37, throwing about 1 more significant strike than her opponents. No knockdowns. She's never been knocked down. 46% striking defense probably is not going to work well against Gloria de Paula. De Paula's looked good in the stand-up. Her problem has been keeping fights standing. But when she's standing up, her striking looks really crisp. And Maria Oliveira's got a striking base, Muay Thai striking base as well. So I do anticipate this being a striking match. Paula probably will be the better striker, lands about 1.3 more significant strikes per minute than her opponents do. She's way more accurate than Oliveira, way more defensively responsible than Oliveira. She's been knocked down once. But the thing is that, look, the thing that bothers me here about Gloria Paula is when you like a striker, you don't want that striker being in control time positions 55% of her UFC career, because that means she's spending less than half of her cage time doing what she does best. I think here we're going to see her have the opportunity to win some minutes, potentially even on the cage and on the mat, and be striking where she's the most comfortable here. Interesting number here is that DePaula has 1 takedown and her opponents have 5, but DePaula is actually out-controlling her opponents 29.2% to 25.69%. Oliveira hasn't attempted a takedown yet, and she's yielded 6, and she's getting out-controlled 36.75% to 1/10%. So, Maria just hasn't shown much. She got controlled by Ricci. She got destroyed by Marina Rodriguez, while DePaula has had a close competitive fight with Jin Yu Fry. She lost by head kick knockout to Cheyenne Vlismas and got a win over Diana Belbita, a pretty good striker in her own right. Close fight, very close fight there, but it was a unanimous decision for DePaula. So, yeah, look, this is a dog or pass fight. I think DePaula wins here. I think she probably cruises. But, I don't even think I need to remind you guys what happens when you lay minus 250 chalk on a 6-4 low-level women's fighter in Gloria DePaula. How does that go for you in the long run? Do you like getting beaten with a bag of oranges? Do you like seeing your Uncle Weezy standing above you with a glass of orange juice while you're on the ground internally bleeding and moaning, asking why, Uncle Weezy, why? Because you bet on low-level women's MMA and, more importantly, laid juice. We don't do that, you guys. Bad idea. Pick Gloria DePaula by decision. Bet, no bet. Dog or pass. I don't hate it if you go on Oliveira here and you say, I'm getting plus 200 and I don't think there's much of a difference between the two fighters. I know there probably really isn't. So, like I say, let's just move on, you guys. Stay away from this fight. Please don't make, people are starving. We could give these oranges that I'm beating people with to the homeless and they could eat them, But no, I'm going around the country beating people with bags of oranges because they're betting on low-level women's MMA and laying juice. We can't do it, you guys. So let's move on. Ramos Chavez. Okay. Ricardo Ramos, 9 years younger. Love that. 1 inch taller. Like that. 5 inches of reach. Love that. Ricardo was training at Alpha Male. I don't know if he is anymore. And then we've got MMA Masters for Danny Chavez. And did I just see a new show name? Pulpability? Yes. Pulpability. Oh, my God. Gloria DePaula by points, minus 175. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Laying minus 175 on a decision prop on low-level women's MMA. Bag of orange beatings if you're betting that line. My God, we are not betting that line, you guys. Yes, and DK echoes my sentiments. Pulpability, gold. That's comedy gold, ladies and gentlemen. Love the size advantage and the youth advantage here for Ricardo Ramos. Like the fact that he's got 3 more pro fights, but we can see that Danny Chavez's average fight time, 13.63 minutes. Ricardo Ramos, it's 6.66. So we know that Chavez has had almost 100 more minutes in the pro cage than Ramos, despite the fact that he's got 3 less fights. That means Chavez going to decision a lot and Ricardo Ramos finishing a lot. So Chavez has been doing this for 2.5 years longer, has got about 90 more minutes in the pro cage. But everywhere else, it's Ramos with 3 more pro fights. It's Ramos with 6 more UFC level fights. It's Ramos with about 50 more minutes in the UFC cage. And it's Ramos who's the much better finisher here, finishing 2/3 of his pro wins, 47% by sub, 20% by knockout. And he's been finished in 3 of his 4 losses, while Danny Chavez, I mean, you very rarely see UFC fighters with less than a 30% finish rate as a pro. At the UFC level, you see it all the time, but complete pro experience, it's surprising that somebody who has legitimate power like Danny Chavez, it just hasn't translated to finishes for him in his pro career, and his only UFC win was a decision as well. So definitely Chavez is a guy that's just been going to decision quite a bit. And we see that Ramos has finished 1 of his UFC wins by submission, 1 by knockout. The other 4 are decisions here. So, and he's been knocked out in 2 of his 3 UFC losses. When we look at the striking numbers, we're going to see 2 guys that are absorbing more strikes per minute than they land. 3.32 landed, 3.84 absorbed for Ramos, and he's getting out-volumed. Showed some decent power, though, here with 2 knockdowns in 9 fights, and he's only been knocked down once in 9 fights. Chavez absorbing about 1 more significant strike per minute than he lands, so that's not good. And he's also getting out-volumed. Both of these dudes are sitting right at 38% striking accuracy, and it's Ramos who's been a little bit more defensively responsible here. And then when it comes to the wrestling, we can see that Ramos is attempting about 3 takedowns per fight, and he's getting them at a very impressive 58.62% clip, 12% control time for, 11% control time against, and he's showing 72% takedown defense. Chavez has gotten 6 of his 10 takedown attempts, and he's controlling his opponents 10% of the time. So it's 4.5 minutes of control time on 6 takedowns. So Chavez, even though he has gotten some takedowns, he's done nothing with them thus far, but showing excellent takedown defense at 87.5%. But it's alarming that Chavez has got 10% control time for, 24% control time against, but he's got 4 more takedowns than his opponents do. So clearly, Danny Chavez is somebody that's not efficient winning minutes on the ground. And we see that even though he'll probably be the more powerful striker on the feet, it still hasn't translated at the UFC level. Ramos, the bigger, more experienced guy. In terms of strength of schedule at the UFC level, Ramos, the better ratio. Chavez fighting the more experienced competition, but not by much. And the wins, good for Chavez here, but there's only 1 win. So Ramos in his wins, 1.67 ratio and 4 total fights. That's not bad. And then the losses, a little bit better ratio-wise for Ramos, a little bit better experience-wise for Chavez. So it's Chavez who's fighting the more experienced competition on the aggregate. Ramos who's fighting the better win-loss ratio competition on the aggregate. So this is a situation where I kind of feel like Ramos is just a little bit better everywhere. He's the bigger guy. He's the younger guy. He's the more experienced guy. He's had more UFC-level fights. He's the better finisher. But Chavez is a little bit scarier on the feet, in my opinion. And he's also better leg. I love those leg kicks from Chavez. When he's landing those, he can really change a fight. And I think that that's going to be a big deal in this fight. But, like I say, I really do think that Ramos is just a little bit better everywhere. Chavez, a durable guy. So I'm going to predict that Ramos wins this one by decision. And my favorite bet for this fight, because both guys are durable and because Chavez not much of a finisher, and because Ramos really only finishing at a 33% rate, but Chavez is not a guy that's getting finished a lot. I mean, I think maybe Ramos by submission could be a path because he is a good BJJ player, but Chavez is a black belt as well. Just haven't seen him really use it. He kind of keeps it in his back pocket. So like Ricardo Ramos, I like him to win by decision. Let's see what that decision line on Ramos is, because I know this is a very juiced line. And I do believe, I never even put up the new banner for you guys. That's why I need a producer for this show. But yeah, Chavez plus 250, Ricardo Ramos minus 300. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 155. What I like here is the fight goes. And I think the fight goes is sitting around minus 176 here on FanDuel. I think that's a pretty good bet. Maybe a good parlay piece, but that's my favorite bet for this fight. Pick's going to be Ricardo Ramos by decision. Next fight, boy, is this one a banger. Court McGee versus Jeremiah Wells. So let me get the stats up here. So we're going to see, everyone's talking about how Court McGee is old. Well, so is Jeremiah Wells. Jeremiah Wells is only 2 years younger than Court. But it's Court 2 inches taller. They got the same reach. Switch stance fighter for Wells, orthodox fighter for Court McGee. Renzo Gracie Philly for Jeremiah Wells. Man, I'm telling you, those Philly boys, they are looking good lately. Sean Brady, the Daukaus brothers. Who else we got? Pat Sabatini. There's some good guys coming out of Philly right now. Jeremiah Wells is definitely one of them. Court McGee out of the pit elevated. Both these guys Americans. So Court McGee, 18 more professional fights, over 200 more minutes in the pro cage, and about a little over 5 more years as a pro. A lot more UFC level experience. 17 more UFC level fights, 250 more minutes in the UFC cage. It's Wells who's finishing at an 80% rate. Court McGee finishing at a 48% rate. Court McGee's only finished 2 of his 10 UFC wins, and he's only been finished in 1 of his 9 UFC losses. So it's very important to note that 16 out of Court McGee's 19 UFC fights have went to decision. So Jeremiah Wells, even though he's a good finisher, he's never been finished in his career. So we've got 2 very durable fighters here. So this is a situation where I do like the over. And Court McGee, while he has been knocked down a few times, he's only been knocked out once, and that's once in his entire career. That's 31 fights, 350 minutes in the pro cage, and 264 minutes in the UFC cage. So both guys very durable here. Court McGee, over a huge sample size, is landing 1 more significant strike per minute than his opponents, and he's throwing 3 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents. So he's been a good minute winner with his striking, 61% striking defense. He's getting knocked down more than he knocks his opponents down, but 3 knockdowns for Court McGee in 19 fights, and he's been knocked down 5 times. So Jeremiah Wells has landed a knockdown in the UFC. He's landing 3.55, absorbing 1.58, and throwing a lot more volume than his opponents. But 20% striking defense on only 20 significant strike attempts is not good. So there's a little bit of a hole there, but it's a very small sample size, so I don't really know what to make of it. But look, Court's a good boxer. He throws a lot of volume. Jeremiah Wells just wins. I mean, like, he's throwing bombs. So definitely 2 different styles here. But, Court McGee, after I think it was the Hannibal Silva fight. Yes, against Claudio Hannibal Silva here. He was talking after the fight about how Claudio was coming forward. And he said, I love it when people come forward because that makes it easy for me to get my takedowns. And Court McGee is somebody that absolutely depends on getting those takedowns in order to be successful. So if we look at the grappling numbers here, we see 131 takedown attempts for Court McGee, and that is in 19 fights. So that is about 6.5 takedown attempts per fight. He's getting them at a 25% clip. He averages 1.87 takedowns for 15 minutes and less than a half a submission attempt for 15 minutes. And he's out-controlling his opponents at about a 5-to-1 ratio, and like I said, over and over again, and a very big sample size. Only 70% takedown defense leaves us a little something to be desired, but like I say, 5.21% control time allowed over a huge sample size, so very impressive. Wells out-controlling his opponents in a very small sample size, 78% to 4%. But that was the Blood Diamond fight where he basically took Blood Diamond down right away and then just submitted him at the end of the first round. So, and look, Wells is a good grappler, but Court McGee has been out there with literally everybody. And I know I've got some numbers here on McGee that I want to share with you. And did I leave them in the other room? Let me look here. Because these are important. All right, Court McGee. So I told you that he's dependent on his wrestling. So we see the 24% control time for and the 5% control time against. But in Court McGee's 10 wins, he has controlled his opponents 37.5% of the time and allowed 5.75% control time. So in those 10 wins, he's out-controlling his opponents at about a 6 to 7 to 1 ratio. He's been 28 takedowns in those 10 wins. He's getting those takedowns at a 35% clip instead of a 25% clip. So when Court McGee's winning, he's getting takedowns. As a matter of fact, Court McGee has never won a UFC fight without getting at least one takedown. So in all 10 wins, we've got at least one takedown for Court McGee. And in his 9 losses, Court McGee only has 9% control time for and 4.6% control time allowed. And in those 9 losses, Court McGee is 5 for 50 on his takedown attempts. So, look, with those kind of numbers, it becomes very obvious because we've got a guy with 19 fights and 10 wins and 9 losses. And because there's a big divergence in the stats in Court McGee's wins as opposed to his losses, we know that this guy is dependent on getting the grappling going in order to win the fight. If Jeremiah Wells comes forward winging bombs, he's going to walk into a reactive double leg, and Court McGee has been on the ground with some of the best in the division. And I just want to show you guys this because it's important. You look at the names that this guy has grappled against, and nobody's ever submitted him. And for those of you who think that this guy Wells is going to out-grapple Court McGee, I hate to tell you that it's not going to happen. He's been out there with Ryan Jensen, Konstantin Philippou, Nick Ring, Josh Neer, Robert Whitaker he has a win over, Ryan LaFleur, excellent wrestler, excellent grappler, Dominique Steele, excellent wrestler, Saunders, great submission grappler, Strickland, Alex Garcia, high-level BJJ player there and wrestler. Sean Brady couldn't finish him. And as a matter of fact, it was a very close fight. And so Sean Brady now can tell Jeremiah Wells what he knows about Court McGee because he's been in there with him. Carlos Condit. And then he out-grappled Claudio Silva and Ramiz Brahimaj. So I don't see Wells having success in the grappling exchanges here. And Court McGee is somebody that's very smart. And when he's winning those fights, he's wearing you down. So with a guy who's so explosive and so powerful in Wells, I think we're going to see Court go out there, work the clinch game, put him up against the fence, make him wear his weight, wear him down, and then just get better and better as the fight goes on. I think he's going to get takedowns here, and I think he's going to own the grappling exchanges. And I don't think that Wells is going to be in the stand-up much here. And if he explodes too much, I think he's going to be getting taken down over and over again. I am picking Court McGee to win this fight by decision. Right now, Court McGee is plus 175 by decision on FanDuel Sportsbook. I also have a bet on this fight for the over 2.5. And then this is a bet based on the combined durability of guys like McGee and Wells here, as I will show you on my prop template. This prop template will be going through every page of this prop template here on probability. But where is the McGee fight? Is it all the way over here? McGee Wells. Very important to note. Let's just zoom in on this to 150%. 12 combined losses as pros for Court McGee and Jeremiah Wells. Only one of them has been inside the distance. Even at the UFC level, 5 of 21 combined fights have finished inside the distance. It's only 23.8%. So if we go down here to fight goes to decision, we're getting a 14.7% edge over the implied probability of the line, and we're getting, which is only 62%. And then we've got the divisional finish rate, 24.6%, or the divisional decision rate is 24.6% better. So, yeah, This is a fight goes to decision or an over 2.5 bet. It's sitting at minus 180 right now. I got it at minus 140 earlier in the week, betting that for 1.4 units. Love the over for this fight. Love the fight goes to decision for this fight. And I like Court McGee by decision. Next fight. Oh, boy. Here's another one, you guys. This is a dog or pass fight for me. Jasmine Jasudavicius against Natalia Silva. Now, admittedly, I didn't get to watch much tape on Silva, but and let's see if they actually updated Silva's measurables here. They still have not. We still don't have a reach or a stance for Silva, but Jasmine's going to be 8 years older and 3 inches taller here. I assume she's going to have a reach advantage. She's very big for the weight class. But it's Silva who has the experience advantage. And she's been fighting for 5 years longer. She has 10 more pro fights. And but Jasudavicius has 2 fights at the UFC level and 30 minutes in the UFC cage. Silva with a great finish rate, 83% finish rate, 10 out of 12 wins inside the distance, 3 by KO, 7 by submission. And she's been finished in 3 of her 5 losses. So definitely a lot of her fights tend to be finishing inside the distance. For Jasmine, she's got a 43% finish rate in her 7 wins, 2 by knockout, 1 by submission, and she's never been finished in her career. But it's important to note that Jasmine's been doing this for less than 3 years, and she's 33 years old. So Jasmine started mixed martial arts at the age of 30, and when we see the Kay Hansen fight, we see her losing striking exchanges to Kay Hansen, who's not known for her striking. And Kay Hansen, that was her only fight at 125, so she was the much smaller girl. What I like about Jasmine is she can wrestle. And I also like the fact that she can hang on the ground. What I don't like is the striking. And I also think that, Natalia Silva is going to be live for a submission here if Jasmine makes any mistakes. But Jasmine's big, she's strong, and she definitely knows how to wrestle. And that's one of the things that I really like about Jasmine is that, if she doesn't like how it's going on the feet, she can use that size. She can use that wrestling background that she has to go out there, slow down the fight, put her opponents back on the cage, potentially on the mat, and win some minutes there. And, we see it here. 6 of 10 on takedowns for Jasmine. And 85% takedown defense. So she's out controlling her opponents 47.5% to 4.6%. So I think that's going to be her path here. Natalia Silva doesn't offer a whole lot on the feet either. But she does have, like I say, a lot of wins by submission, 7 of them. And she's been submitted twice. So, she definitely spends a lot of her time on the ground, and she is working to try to finish fights. And she does get finished too. So I think it's an interesting fight to potentially finish inside the distance. I don't think Jasudavicius, I don't know what her ceiling is, but sometimes just being able to wrestle and dictate where the fight takes place can be enough to win a fight. And when we look at Natalia Silva, I just want to take you through what her level of competition has been like, because I don't really see a lot of recognizable names. 10-5 Joyce Morrow win, 3-0 Gabriela Marcal, 1-1 Raquel Santiago, 1-0 Kenya Santana, 2-2 Ingrid Silva, 0-0 Raquel Santiago, so she's beaten Raquel Santiago twice. She has a loss to Marina Rodriguez, Terciara Santos, Stamann. I don't know who the hell these ladies are. And she started off in 2015 just losing a lot. So we can see here that she started off her career with 3 wins, 4 losses, and a draw. And so she's 9-1 in her last 10 fights. So Natalia's been hot here. And she's fighting some good level competition. She even went 3 full rounds with Marina Rodriguez. And she's winning a lot of these fights. Armbar, arm lock, armbar, armbar, armbar. And then these fights here against Raquel and Kenya were probably finishes as well. So, if you've got a read on this one, have at it. I don't, and I'm probably not going to be betting this fight. I really don't see much there to like, so I'm going to stay away from it. But I think that, I think Jasmine can win this fight with her wrestling and control time, but I wouldn't be surprised if Natalia Silva won. And there's no way that I would lay, minus 250 on Jasmine Jasudavicius here. I laid the hammer down on Kay Hansen at minus 225. I thought she was going to smoke this girl. So I don't have a lot of faith in Jasmine. She still has got massive holes in her game and is very inexperienced. So I think Natalia Silva's a live dog here. I would be dog or pass on this fight, but I'll still pick Jasmine Jasudavicius to win it by decision. Excuse me, you guys. I think I saw that my guy Keep It Cool donated to the show. And there we go. Wait, what just happened? Did I bring it up there? Missed it. There it is. This 1-800-GAMBLER fight is brought to you by Weezy's Light Bill. Keeping the lights on here. Ring a ding ding. Keep it cool. Thank you so much for the $10 donation, brother. I appreciate you. You're always here supporting, man, and I appreciate you. Love all of you guys. Smash that like button while you're at it here. I think we're about halfway through this card here. Let's have a look-see what the next fight is. Let's see how many we've done here. We've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so we're about halfway through. Next fight is going to be an absolute banger. We've got Adrien Yanez versus Tony Kelley. So Adrien Yanez, big favorite at minus 310 here. Tony Kelley plus 260. The fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up at about minus 150. So we see Adrien Yanez 7 years younger here. It's going to be Tony Kelley, 2 inches taller. They both have a 70-inch reach. Tony Kelley, switch stance fighter out of Alpha Male, but I don't think he trains there anymore. I think now Tony Kelley is training out of Karate Mafia with Andrea Lee. And Adrien Yanez, Orthodox fighter, Metro Fight Club. I believe Houston, Adrien is from, and Tony's also a Texas boy. Yanez, 8 more fights, 50 more minutes in the pro cage, while it's Tony Kelley, who's been a pro for about 1 year and 6 months longer. Tony Kelley, very, very, very inactive fighter, only fighting once a year for his 10-year career, while Adrien Yanez fighting more than twice a year. So he's definitely the more busy fighter for sure. Yanez, more experience, younger, and more UFC level experience too, as he's got 2 more UFC level fights. 73% finish rate for Yanez, 75% finish rate for Tony Kelley, as he's finished 3 by submission, 3 by knockout, 2 by decision. And neither one of these guys has ever been finished as a pro in 28 combined fights. 2 losses by Kelley, both by decision. 3 losses by Yanez, all by decision. 2 very durable fighters here. In the striking, both of these guys are great kickboxers. But what we see from Yanez, I think DC said it best while I was watching one of his fights, where he said Yanez is very meat and potatoes. He throws that jab, he throws that straight right, he goes with a heavy low leg kick to the calf, and he doesn't play around. He's working behind that jab, throwing that 1-2. He doesn't throw big wide hooks. Everything is getting to the target faster and straighter than what his opponents are usually throwing back at him. And he can he's got a great chin, does Yanez, as does Tony Kelley. And he's just such a crisp boxer, such a great minute winner in the exchanges there in the pocket. While Kelley, we saw him really have some problems with Kai Kamaka's boxing, and he absorbed a lot of shots here. And this 45% striking defense that we see is very, very that's going to be a problem against Adrien Yanez, because Adrien Yanez he's landed 5 knockdowns in 5 fights. Almost 40% striking accuracy. He's throwing about 2.5 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents, and he's landing almost 1 more significant strike per minute than his opponents. 60% striking defense is excellent, and he's never been knocked down. So big power, big volume, really technical, crisp, tight boxing. You got to love everything that Adrien Yanez does with that boxing. But that's really what he does. He doesn't do anything else. Kelley throws a lot more volume than his opponents, lands a lot more than his opponents, is a little more accurate, than Adrien Yanez is, but not nearly as powerful and not nearly as defensively responsible. So I believe that Yanez should be the minute winner on the feet here and potentially the moment winner too. But Tony Kelley does have power of his own. Look at this. 8 combined fights, only 1 takedown attempt between these two guys. So neither one of these guys is wrestling. Tony Kelley, despite the fact that he's got 0 takedowns and he's been taken down 10 times, is actually only getting out-controlled at a 2-to-1 ratio. So Tony seems to be a little more comfortable being in the grappling exchanges than Adrien Yanez does. As we see, Adrien's just avoiding it at all costs. He's tried 0 takedowns, and he's defended 100% of the takedowns that has come his way. So Adrien is selling out to keep that fight on the feet and to beat you with his boxing, and really nothing else. So when I say that Adrien Yanez is a one-dimensional fighter, I say it in the most complimentary way possible. He's most comfortable striking. He's very, very good there, and he does an excellent job of not doing anything more than he needs to do. He fights smart, he stays within himself, and he doesn't do shit that's going to make him uncomfortable. So 96% of his fights are taking place at striking range where he's the most comfortable. He's defending 100% of the takedowns that come his way, and he's not even attempting to get the fight to the ground. And Kelley's really not attempting to get the fight to the ground either, but Kelley's spending over 50% of his fights in control time positions for or against. So I kind of feel like if Kelley's going to have a chance to win this fight, he's got to do everything in his power not to fight Adrien Yanez's fight, which should be, I mean, it should be evident, I feel like. But, I don't know what I can do this. I don't know what to say, because the fact that Adrien Yanez, a guy who's so comfortable striking, who's so efficient with his striking, who's so powerful, the fact that he's only seen 6 takedown attempts in 5 UFC fights shows me that his opponents have not brought a good game plan yet, because nobody's even trying to take this guy out of what he does best and what he's clearly most comfortable doing. Can Tony Kelley do that? I think he can. He looks very comfortable on the fence. He looks like he can win minutes there in the clinch. He lands a lot of short elbows there when he's in those dirty boxing exchanges, and I think he can win there, and I think he could try to wrestle Yanez and try to make this a fight where Yanez can't just sit there with his opponent standing in front of him and work behind his jab and his calf kick and just out volume, get his opponents or get his punches straight to the target. I think Kelley's going to really have to work on making this a very uncomfortable fight, because I understand that people are high on Yanez, but look at the guys that he's beating have a 1.6 win and 1.6 loss record with only 3.2 total fights and a 1 win-loss ratio. So he's not a world beater. Brady Huang, Victor Rodrigues, Gustavo Lopez, Randy Costa, and David Grant. And Tony Kelley has just as impressive of a win over Randy Costa as Yanez does. He did really well with that opponent. Tony Kelley has faced an opponent in Ali Al-Kaisi who sold out for the grappling, and he came out the other end unscathed. He fought Kai Kamaka in an absolute back-and-forth war, but Tony, I don't think, was expecting Kai Kamaka to be as great in the boxing as he was in that fight. So if Tony Kelley can bring a game plan here that includes a lot of wrestling, clinching, and walking his opponents down so that Adrien can't just work behind that jab and do what he does so well, I think Tony can make this really greasy. I would not lay this juice on Adrien Yanez, and I actually have a very small tracked bet, a quarter of a unit. Tony Kelley by decision is plus 800 on FanDuel, and neither one of these guys has ever been finished, first of all. So I love betting fight goes to decision when I see 2 durable fighters. And we've seen Tony Kelley be in wars. We've seen him absorb big shots from Costa, so I know Kelley's got a chin. I saw Yanez absorbing big shots from Davey Grant and Randy Costa, so I know that Yanez has got a chin. Favorite bets for this fight? fight goes to decision, plus 128 on FanDuel. Adrien Yanez by decision, and Tony Kelley by decision. But I did sprinkle that Tony Kelley by decision at plus 800. I think this is a great fight. Can't wait for it. But the pick is going to be Adrien Yanez by decision. The bet is already plus 128. Fight goes to decision. I have that. And I also have a quarter unit on the Kelley decision. Next fight, another ridiculous banger of a fight. Let's hope it happens. Gregory Hobo Cop Rodrigues against Julian, the Cuban Missile Crisis Marquez. It's going to be Rodrigues, who's 2 years younger. He's not 30. Come on, is he really 30? Barack Obama's only 30, I guess. Oh, well, we'll believe it. We'll say that he's 30 years old here. But, yeah, Gregory Rodrigues 1 inch taller, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. So, love the tail of the tape here for Hobo Cop. 3 inches of reach, an inch of height, and 2 years younger. Gloria MMA for Julian Marquez, ex-gym for Gregory Rodrigues. And we haven't seen Julian in about a year. 4 more pro fights for Rodrigues, about 25 more minutes in the pro cage. Length of the pro career just edges Marquez here, and Marquez a little more UFC experience, 1 more fight, and about 11 more minutes in the UFC cage. So close. Marquez, a 100% finish rate in his wins. Gregory Rodrigues is an 81% finish rate in his wins. Julian Marquez has never been finished, and if you've watched him fight, you know why. It's because you could hit this dude in the head with a shovel, and he'd just keep coming at you. Julian Marquez has got one of the best chins in all of the UFC. This guy trusts his chin. He can absolutely take a square shot and keep walking forward. He's one of the most durable people in the entire UFC. So 6 combined losses between these two guys. Only 2 of them have been inside the distance, and Rodrigues has been knocked out twice in his career. We see Julian Marquez landing about 1 more significant strike per minute than he absorbs, 45% accuracy, 2 knockdowns in 5 fights, and he's never been knocked down, 55% striking defense, and he's throwing about 2.4 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents are, so very good. Rodrigues is getting out-volumed by his opponents and outlanded by his opponents. He's a little more accurate than Marquez, but not as powerful, and he's also been knocked down once in 4 UFC fights. In the grappling, excuse me, guys, Marquez has not completed a takedown in the UFC. He's getting out-controlled about 32% to 6%, and his takedown defense is sitting just above 50% at 53.33. So, this is going to be close on the feet, in my opinion. Both of these guys have a shit ton of power. They both hit very hard. But on the ground, Rodrigues is getting his takedowns at over a 50% clip, and Julian Marquez is not stopping takedowns at a good clip here. He's getting taken down 4 times for 15 minutes and spending almost a third of his UFC cage time being controlled by his opponents. So definitely a path to victory here for Gregory Rodrigues if he wants to use the wrestling. The problem with that is that taking down Julian Marquez and holding him down is exhausting. And Gregory is not the guy with the best cardio that we've seen. So while Marquez is gassed out a little bit too in fights, the dude has absolutely no quit in him. So I see this fight being an absolute war. I see both of these guys donating blood, a ton of heavy shots. I do see Gregory Rodrigues being the more complete mixed martial artist, the more technical mixed martial artist here, but Julian Marquez's heart and his chin and his durability are huge problems, and he's good in the grappling exchanges as well. Very good submission grappler is Julian Marquez, as we see that he's won 3 of his 9 wins by sub, 6 of them by knockout, and in the UFC, 3 of his 4 wins are by submission, and 1 of them is by knockout. So he's been a lot more proficient at the UFC level, getting submissions than he has gotten knockouts. And then if we look at the strength of schedule, we're going to see Marquez has fought the more experienced competition at 10.4 total fights, but we see the ratio is better for Rodrigues, and I like the wins better for Rodrigues here because the ratio is 2.33, but the competition is about half his experience. So both of these guys are losing the guys with losing records. But Marquez has just been fighting not as good a competition on the whole here because he's fighting guys with losing records overall. So I think that Rodrigues is live to win this fight. I think he's going to win it by submission and I think he could. I think he's going to win it by decision. I think that the submission is live for Gregory Rodrigues because Marquez has had a hard time keeping fights on the feet. But if you look at Rodrigues over a 4-fight sample size, and we know that the guy is a credentialed grappler, he's attempting over 3 takedowns per fight, but only 15% control time for and 4% control time allowed. So 80% of Robocop's fights have been taking place at striking range. I think it's going to need to be a higher percentage in the control time positions here if Rodrigues is going to have success because Marquez hits like a truck, dude. And like I say, you can land big shots on him, but he's not going anywhere, dude. This guy's just going to eat him like a pancake and be throwing back at you. So it could be the type of situation where Rodrigues hurts Marquez, and then Marquez, when Rodrigues thinks he's got him almost out of there, rushes in and then walks onto a big shot and gets knocked out himself. So I think Julian Marquez is definitely the more likely to finish this fight. So 100% finish rate for, 0% finish rate against. So I actually bet, because Marquez is a big underdog here, and I agree with it, I actually bet the finish only prop for Julian Marquez at plus 160 for 1 unit. Because and it's a bet on the durability of Marquez and on the power of Marquez. And we've seen Rodrigues get knocked out. We've seen him Jordan Williams separated him from his consciousness. So we know that Marquez can too. But I still think Rodrigues probably wins this fight by decision. That's going to be my pick. But the bet for this fight is going to be the Marquez finish only prop at plus 160 available on Bet Online. Next fight, Guram Dolidze against Damir Ismagulov. And if you look in the description of this video, we did a balls deep breakdown last night on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. When you see me freeze in that video, if you watch it, just fast forward about 15 minutes because my computer restarted on me out of nowhere. And there's a big gap in the video, but still a lot of great information in there. I think that this is going to be a very close fight. But basically what the conclusion that I came to in the balls deep breakdown was that Damir's been busier, but both of these guys, we haven't seen them in a while. But Damir is just such a good minute winner on the feet, and he throws more volume than his opponents, and he's so good at landing 2 significant strikes for every one that he absorbs. It shows Dolidze with the reach advantage, but I think Ismagulov is actually going to be the bigger, taller, longer guy here when we actually see them next to each other, because Damir is just huge for the division. He's the more experienced fighter, 7 more pro fights, 110 more minutes in the cage, 3 more UFC fights, 45 more minutes in the UFC cage. And you see Guram here. He's been a pro fighter for 12 years, but only has 14 fights. So the guy just doesn't fight much. While for Ismagulov, he's been a lot busier, averaging almost 3 fights per year. So Guram, you just don't even know if this guy wants to be there. He just doesn't fight. So Dolidze is very, very low volume on the feet. So I don't see Dolidze winning minutes on the feet unless he knocks out Damir Ismagulov. And that is a possibility. Damir's been dropped before. He got dropped by Rafael Alves. So Dolidze could land a big shot here. But, I think Ismagulov was going to be the more likely one to initiate the wrestling, the more likely one to win minutes in the wrestling, the more likely one to win minutes in the striking exchanges. And other than Dolidze's win over Gamrot, it's really Ismagulov that's been fighting the higher level competition here. Ismagulov fighting in I believe M1, or was it Fight Nights? So Ismagulov was 23-1, had a lot of pre-experience here in M1, yes, and he's fighting 22-10, 21-3, 13-2, 9-2, 7-5. So he's fighting some really good regional scene competition here in Russia. Very tough guys 12-2, 12-8, 16-3. So I think he's more experienced. He's fought the higher level of competition. I think they're both very well-rounded mixed martial artists. But with this fight, we have to wait until weigh-ins because Ismagulov, with his last fight, was supposed to be against Mustafayev. He showed up at 163.5. So, and looked like absolute trash on the scale to the point where the fight got called immediately after he weighed in. So we haven't seen Ismagulov, I think, in 2 years now because of that. And we're going to have to wait to see how this guy looks on the scales before we can actually bet him. But my pick is going to be Damir Ismagulov by decision because I think he's the better minute winner everywhere. And the way that I broke down this fight is that Dolidze is basically, in my opinion, it's a puncher's chance for him. I don't think he's winning minutes here anywhere. So I got to go with Ismagulov to win this one by decision. But got to see him on the scales first. And if everything checks out and he looks good on the scales, I might be betting Damir Ismagulov by decision. And right now, that line I think is sitting at about plus 140. Ismagulov by decision plus 135, plus 130, plus 140 in a couple of spots. That's going to be how I'm looking to play this one. But we broke this one down last night in detail. So if you want a more nuanced, more detailed breakdown of all the tape study that I saw in this fight, definitely check out the Balls Deep Breakdown. The link is in the description of this video. And as always, the link to all the stats here is in the description of the video. Download that for free. And I do like the Ismagulov-Guram fight going to decision as well. Next fight, wow, what a banger. Albert Duraev versus Joaquin Buckley. We got Duraev minus 225, Joaquin Buckley plus 190. The fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up at minus 210. So we've got Buckley being 5 years younger, Duraev an inch taller, and it's an inch of reach for Buckley. He's a southpaw. Duraev is an orthodox fighter. Fight Club Berkut, and it's Finney's Hit Squad for Joaquin Buckley. I think he's also over at Murcielago sometimes. Both of these guys, 18 fights, very experienced, very similar experience numbers. It's just that Duraev's been a little bit less active, fighting less than twice a year, and for Joaquin Buckley, it's been a little over twice a year. And then Buckley, 4 more UFC level fights and about 35 more minutes in the UFC cage. 80% finish rate for Duraev in 15 wins, 71% finish rate for Buckley in 14 wins. Buckley's been finished in 3 of his 4 losses, and Albert Duraev has been finished in all 3 of his losses. What these guys really do well is knock people out, and they tend to get knocked out as well. So violence is the word for this fight. Let me see, go back in here. All right, so the striking numbers. We don't have much for Duraev, but he's landing significantly more than he absorbs and throwing significantly more than he absorbs. Shows good striking defense. He's been knocked down once, and Joaquin Buckley's been knocked down 3 times in 6 fights. Joaquin lands about as much as he absorbs, throws more volume than his opponents, and he's landing 4 knockdowns in 6 fights. So Joaquin Buckley, in his 6 UFC fights, there have been 7 knockdowns for and against. So either somebody's getting knocked down or he's getting knocked down. But definitely violence is happening on the feet in Buckley fights. And we see that Duraev has been knocked down once as well. Roman Kopylov knocked him down. And we even saw Kyle Bittencourt in his UFC Contender Series fight have some success on the feet against him. So we know what Buckley does. He had that one highlight reel spinning back kick jumping thing knockout against Impa Kasanganay, knockout of the year. Buckley just wings hooks. He's all yoked up, a ton of muscle on him, and he comes in trying to take your head off. Duraev is a good boxer. You know, he moves his head out of the way. He's got good movement with his feet, decent boxing, but he's the much better grappler here. He's the much better submission grappler. And if he gets this fight to the ground, I think that's where he's going to do his best work. The only problem is he's 2 of 10 on takedowns. That's going to need to be better, but he's out-controlling his opponents 46% to 2%. And that's what he's going to need to do here if he wants to win minutes against Buckley, because it's not that Duraev can't win minutes on the feet against Buckley, but that's where Buckley's going to be the most dangerous. And Duraev is definitely going to be the most dangerous, on the ground when he's working his submission grappling and his ground and pound. So I see this very much as a striker versus grappler matchup. The experience is very similar, but Duraev is going to need to have numbers that look like this: 46% control time for, 2.25% control time against. And we see that Buckley only showing 40% takedown defense, but he's only been controlled for 8% of his career thus far. So that's about 4.5 minutes on 3 takedowns. It's not great. It's not terrible either. But and Joaquim has been about 80% of his fights are taking place at striking range. So that's where, if this fight takes place at striking range about 80% of the time, I lean Buckley. But I think that Duraev is going to initiate the grappling here. And I think if he is able to get this to the ground, you're going to see a different level of grappling from Albert Duraev here. And I think it's important to note that Buckley has only seen 5 takedown attempts in 6 fights. So he hasn't seen the kind of game plan that he's going to see against Duraev here. And because of that, I think Duraev probably is able to get the job done. In the strength of schedule, we don't have much information on Duraev, but Buckley is facing winning guys with 7.5 total fights and beating winning guys and losing to winning guys. So a little bit better strength of schedule here for Joaquim Buckley thus far. But, like I say, Duraev, really good experience on the regional scene, once again in Russia. And we can see here some names on his resume. Look at that sweet picture there for Albert Duraev. That's a great Tapology picture. Beautiful Mercedes-Benz there. And we've got, Pyotr Strus, 13-3 in ACB. That was for the ACB championship, and he won it. So we need to know that Duraev championed at 170 and 185 in an organization like ACB, which is just full of killers. Vyacheslav Vasilevsky, 32-5. He beat that dude. Beat former UFC veteran Clifford Starks, 13-3. Mikhail Sarev, 30-5. Ustar Magomed Gadzhdaryov, 7-1. Ken Dojko, 21-1. So he's got a win over Ken Dojko at 170. Patrick Kinchy, 13-7. Damian Billis, 5-0. He lost to Anatoly Tokov, who's a stud. He lost to Ramazan Ameev via knockout, and he lost to Fomenko, 8-6. So I like Duraev to win this fight. His ground game is excellent. Joaquim does have a wrestling background, but he's been taken down on 3 of the 5 attempts against him, and I don't think he's really seen a grappler of Duraev's quality thus far in the UFC, and I think we're going to see him how he deals with a grappling-heavy game plan, and I don't think he's going to deal with it well, because Duraev is a very suffocating grappler, and when he gets on top of you, man, he is absolutely terrifying. So I'm going to be picking Albert Duraev to win this one by second round ground and pound knockout, but I love the fight doesn't go to decision for this fight at minus 200 or better. So yeah, there we go. Next fight, Tim Means against Kevin Holland. And we've got Holland coming in big favorite, minus 275. Means plus 235. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 130. So Tim Means is 38 years old. So Holland, 9 years younger, 1 inch taller, with a 6-inch reach advantage here. So you got to love that. And then Kevin Holland, even though Tim Means has 16 more professional fights and 80 more minutes in the pro cage and about 8 more years as a pro, Kevin Holland is not at really what you would call it an experience disadvantage here, because with 30 fights at only the age of 29, in less than 10 years, he's been incredibly busy. He's been incredibly active, and 30 fights. And he's actually got 15 UFC fights. So he's only got 9 less UFC fights than Means and about 70 less minutes in the UFC cage. So I like Holland's youth. I like his size. And Means has got this great experience, but Kevin Holland is not at a massive experience discrepancy because he's been so active, because he's got 15 UFC level fights, and because he's done very well, 10-4 with a no contest. Excuse me. Okay. So Tim Means is finishing fights at a 75% rate in 32 wins. So that's 24 of 32 wins inside the distance. And he's been finished in 59% of his losses. So definitely Tim Means, finishes and gets finished. And at the UFC level, he's finished 7 of his 14 wins, and he's been finished in 4 of his 9 losses. Kevin Holland has got a 82% finish rate as a pro, a 60% finish rate at the UFC level, and he's only been finished once at the UFC level by submission, and he's been finished twice as a pro, both by submission. Never been knocked out. Kevin Holland has a cast iron chin. When we look at the striking numbers here, both guys have nice striking numbers, but Tim Means in particular, landing about 1.5 more significant strikes per minute than he absorbs, throwing about 1.2 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents do, 48% striking accuracy, good knockdowns per total significant strikes landed. I'd say that's 9 knockdowns in 24 fights, and over 61% striking defense, and he's only been knocked down 3 times. Kevin Holland is landing knockdowns at a 0.6% clip. He's landing about 1.5 more significant strikes per minute than his opponents do, and throwing about 1.5 more attempts. He's more accurate than Tim Means, but not quite as defensively responsible, but he's never been knocked down. Means in 24 UFC fights has attempted 38 takedowns. He's getting them at a good clip, but he's efficient on the ground, as his opponents are getting 2 takedowns for every 1 that Means gets, but we could see that the control time is almost identical for and against. So 66% takedown defense. We're not going to really see having Holland wrestle that much, but we can see here that Means about 28% of his fights taking place in control time positions, but for Holland, it's over 50%. And I think we'd like to see that number for Holland come down because, Holland is very efficient on the ground. I mean, very efficient. He gets a bad rap because of people like, Vettori and what was the other fight where he got taken? Brunson took him down a ton, right? His takedown defense is 50%, but he's got 10 takedowns this Holland. He's given up 40. But even though his opponents have got 4 takedowns for every 1 that Holland has, and for every 2 takedowns that Holland attempts, his opponents are attempting 7. But somehow Holland is getting out-controlled by only about 2% by his opponents. So Kevin Holland is very efficient on the ground. So when he gets taken down, he's either getting reverses or he's getting back up, or he's threatening with submissions. So he tends to get back to his feet. It's just that he's kind of easy to take down, but he's not as easy to hold there. And when he's on the feet, he's extremely powerful. So, I think that these guys' numbers kind of mirror each other a little bit. Means gets taken down a lot more than by his opponents than he takes them down, but yet he just loses the control battle by a slight margin. It's the same thing for Kevin Holland. Both these guys are huge for the weight class. Both these guys have a lot of power for the weight class. It's just that Kevin Holland is a lot more durable. And then if we look at the strength of schedule, we see Kevin Holland with the better ratio, with the better wins, and with the better losses. And we have to keep in mind, it's at 185, not at 170. So some of these guys that he's fighting are, they're even bigger than what, Tim Means is used to seeing in his opponents. So you got to like Holland here, I think. I don't want to get in the habit of laying too much juice on Kevin Holland because he can do some dumb shit out there. But I think he's going to be the more durable guy. He's the younger guy. He's certainly the more explosive guy. And, I think that he is good enough at getting up that we don't have to worry about Tim Means winning a bunch of minutes on the ground because that's not Tim Means' game. If Tim Means was a big minute winner on the ground, you'd see him attempting more than 1.5 takedowns per fight. So I think Tim Means loves being on the feet and loves striking because he's got those hands and he hits hard. But Kevin Holland is going to be younger. He's going to be longer. He's going to be faster and just more explosive. So I don't really see Means being better anywhere here. And Kevin Holland's conditioning is getting great. You see this guy's barely even breathing with his mouth open late in fights now, when it was a little bit different back in the day. He would come in a little bit worse shape, but he never really had to cut much weight to make it down to 170. So I'm looking for Kevin Holland to be better at 170. I'm looking for him to be harder to take down at 170, and I'm looking for that power to translate big time in this weight division. So I'm going to be picking Kevin Holland to win this fight, and I think he's going to be knocking out Tim Means in the second round, you guys. Next fight is going to be Donald Cerrone versus Joe Lauzon. Cerrone minus 170, Lauzon plus 145. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 200 here. So we've already discussed this fight. This fight was supposed to happen a month or two ago. Donald Cerrone got food poisoning or got sick the day of. They didn't even announce the cancellation of the fight until after the card had started. So it wound up being a DraftKings nightmare. Basically, the gist of this fight is that we've got a 39-year-old Donald Cerrone and a 38-year-old Joe Lauzon. You add up the combined experience of these fights, 97 total fights. They're both well past their prime. Donald Cerrone, in his last 5, is 0-4 with a no contest. The no contest is really just a draw. And then Joe Lauzon is 2-3, wins over Marcin Held by split decision and Jonathan Pierce by knockout. Losses to Chris Gritzenmacher, Clay Guida, and Stevie Ray. So really, this is a fight that comes down to, if you're betting on this fight, you're kind of betting on, instead of saying like, oh, well, here's, what Cerrone does well and here's what Lauzon does well, you're kind of just betting on which guy you think is less washed at this point. If you think Lauzon's less washed, you bet him. If you think Cerrone's less washed, you bet him. But guess what? They're both washed. So which one is less washed? I don't know. But we do know that fights are finishing inside the distance. Joe Lauzon comes out like a house of fire, and then he gasses out if he can't get you out of there. His last 3 fights have been finished inside the distance, and 3 out of the last 5 fights for Cerrone have finished inside the distance. I think this fight finishes inside the distance. I think Donald Cerrone has faced beaten the way better brand of competition. I think he's going to be probably the better grappler here and the better striker. But am I laying juice on a 39-year-old guy that looks like trash in his last couple of fights, gets destroyed by Alex Morono? No chance in hell. But I do believe when you got 2 older fighters like this, that these guys are collecting a check. They don't want to go through a 15-minute war and donate a bunch of blood and brain cells to this fight. They're going to probably try to get each other out of there quickly, and I think one of them will achieve that. So I like the fight doesn't go to decision for this one. But like I said, I'm picking Cerrone to win. I'm picking him to win by second-round knockout, but I wouldn't be surprised if Lauzon got him out of there in the first. I think a Lauzon first-round prop's worth a sprinkle. I think the fight doesn't go to decision is a good bet. And I think whichever one of these guys wins, they probably get it done inside the distance. But I'll pick Cerrone by second-round knockout, and I will be betting that fight doesn't go to decision. Which brings us to the main event, you guys. And also in the description of this video is a link to the Balls Deep breakdown that Brady and I did, the main event deep dive on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. We went into this one for about 45 minutes, but I'll give you the short version here today. So Calvin Kattar minus 230, Josh Emmett plus 195, fight doesn't go to decision plus 100. So Kattar, 3 years younger, 5 inches taller, and a 2-inch reach advantage. So we love the tail of the tape for Kattar. We love the experience advantage here for Kattar, as he's got 9 more fights, 105 more minutes in the pro cage, and about 4 more years as a pro. And he's got 25 more minutes in the UFC cage as compared to Emmett. 57% finish rate for Kattar, 47% finish rate for Emmett. So Cater's the better finisher, and he's also more durable, as he's only been finished in 1 of 5 pro losses, and Josh Emmett's been finished in 1 of 2 pro losses. So we like everything so far for Kattar. In the boxing, now Emmett is a guy who is landing a knockdown on 2.14% of the significant strikes that he's landed. he had 3 fights at lightweight and then has had 8 fights or 7 fights at featherweight. In those 7 fights, he's landed 11 knockdowns. So Josh Emmett is an absolute killer and has got a ton of power at this weight class. He lands more significant strikes per minute than he absorbs too. So with a 63% striking defense, with a ton of power in his hands, and the fact that he's throwing as much volume and landing a little more than his opponents are, Josh Emmett's been doing really good on the feet here, and he's a very dangerous guy to deal with. Now, Calvin Kattar, on the other hand, is, a little more accurate. He's going to be the better technical boxer here. When he's working behind his jab, he is a sight to behold. And when his boxing is working, Calvin Kattar is fantastic. And he's going to have to watch out for that power coming back at him from Emmett. But the one thing that we do know is that there's no quit in Calvin Kattar and that this dude's got a cast iron chin. We know that he can absolutely absorb punishment and keep walking forward. So Kattar, very, very durable here. He's going to have to watch out for Emmett, but I don't think that there's any question that it's Kattar that's going to be the better technical striker here, the crisper boxer. He's going to have the better jab, but Emmett's always throwing that 1-2, and the jab sets up the big right from him. And if he lands that big right, you're going down. He's also knocked people out with a left hook that has absolutely slept people. Ricardo Ramos in particular is one that I'm thinking of. And he's gotten slept by a left hook by Jeremy Stevens. Kattar has not done a good job of winning minutes with the striking on the feet because you look at the numbers, he's getting out-volumed, he's getting out-landed by about 2.4 significant strikes per minute. So it all looks bad. But when you go and you watch the tape, when it's working on the feet for Calvin, it's working. And this dude's been able to mix in wrestling too a little bit. But Emmett has only attempted 2.1 takedown attempts per fight. But it's important to note that in those 10 takedowns in 10 fights, 8 of them came in one fight. So in the rest of the time, this guy's 2 takedowns in his other 9 fights. So we're not really expecting to see either one of these guys go to the wrestling, especially in a 5-round fight where if you wrestle heavy earlier, you really risk gassing out later in the fight. And especially against a guy like Kattar with as much 5-round experience as he has, the great conditioning that he has, the amount of volume he can put out there, and that, if he's boxing for 25 minutes straight, it's just much easier to maintain that pace and that conditioning if there's not too much wrestling. We just haven't seen much commitment to the wrestling here for Emmett. And why would he commit to the wrestling when Kattar is showing 89% takedown defense and has stuffed 17 of the 19 takedown attempts that he's seen in 10 fights? So Calvin Kattar spending 94% of his fights at striking distance. And for Emmett, it's about 88%. So I predict that this fight's going to take place on the feet. I feel like it's going to be a 5-round striking battle. And I think that Kattar is going to be working behind that jab. And I think that eventually he's going to find the big shot here. He's the better, more accurate, crisper boxer here. I think his punches are going to be getting to the target much quicker than Emmett's will. And Kattar can also use those kicks to maintain that distance. He's got that nice reach advantage here. And then if we look at the strength of schedule numbers, they also lean Kattar, 1.8 ratio to 1.28 and the same amount of total fights. We see that the ratio is identical in the wins and a little more total fights for Kattar and just better losses for Kattar with a 2.73 ratio compared to 0.81 for Emmett. So Kattar's the bigger man, the longer man, and the younger man. He's the more experienced fighter at the UFC level and as a pro. He's the better finisher. He's the crisper striker. Josh Emmett's going to be the power. And then Calvin Kattar has got the better strength of schedule. So I think it's kind of just Kattar everywhere. And because Emmett is, again, I kind of feel like it's the puncher's chance. He needs to land that one big shot. But Calvin Kattar is about as durable as it comes. So I like Calvin Kattar to win this fight. And I think that he's going to box up Josh Emmett, avoid the big shot, and probably get Josh out of there in the late 3rd, early 4th round with just an attritional, volume-based striking knockout that comes later on in the fight. So I'm picking Calvin Kattar to finish this one inside the distance. And I think that Kattar by knockout is a good look. And I also think that if you think that this fight is going to finish inside the distance, take the fight ends by KO instead of fight doesn't go to decision, because I don't think either one of these guys are submitting anybody, and I don't really see that this fight goes to the ground at all. So there we go, you guys. Let's do it. We've got a couple more orders of business here. So let me show you what I got for my tracked bets so far, you guys. And this is all available on my Bet MMA Tips page. You can follow me there and see what I'm doing with all my tracked bets. But what I've got so far is 1.4 units on the Wells McGee over 2.5. I got that at minus 140. It's sitting about minus 180 now, but I still think it cashes. I've got the Marquez scorecards equals no action, which means the finish only prop, which means if this thing does go the distance, the bet is just void and I get my money back. But if it does finish inside the distance, if Marquez wins, I win 1.6 units. And if Marquez loses inside the distance, I lose 1 unit. And then I've got that very small sprinkle on Tony Kelley by decision for a quarter unit at plus 800. That was available on FanDuel earlier today. Excuse me. And so what we have to do next, you guys, is get our greasy 4-leg parlay. So I've broken down a lot of these spots. We're going to go through them one by one. But this week's greasy 4-leg parlay, the first leg is going to be the Duraev-Buckley fight doesn't go to decision. So let's get over here and show you the methodology that I used to break down this one. 22 of 29 combined wins inside the distance and 6 of 7 losses combined inside the distance. So 78% of these guys' 2 fights have finished inside the distance as pros. And at the UFC level, 6 of their 8 fights have finished inside the distance. Now, the fight doesn't go. It's at minus 210, has a 67.74% implied probability, but these guys are finishing at a 75% rate at the UFC level and a 78% rate as pros. And we have that added caveat of 6 of their 7 losses being inside the distance. So we not only do we have 2 good finishers here, but we got 2 guys that aren't particularly durable. So I could see Buckley getting a knockout on the feet. I could see Duraev getting a knockout with ground and pound or getting a submission. So I love the fight doesn't go to decision here. Available on FanDuel for minus 196. That's leg 1. Leg 2 is going to be the Cerrone-Lozon fight doesn't go to decision. Look, 97 career fights for these 2 guys, and 73% of them have finished inside the distance. And even at the UFC level, 67% of their fights are finishing inside the distance. And at minus 182, it's only a 64% implied probability. So I like this one to finish inside the distance. They're both old. They're both probably not willing to go the full 15. They both got families. They want to go in there, put on a show for about 3 minutes, and then have somebody win. So I think that this fight's going to finish inside the distance. We're getting a 16.3% edge over the divisional finish rate and a 2.6% edge over the implied probability of the line here of 64.54%. Leg 2, also a violence prop. Fight doesn't go to decision for Cerrone-Lozon. Leg 3, fight goes to decision for Yanez against Kelley. And I know what you're saying. Really? You're gonna fade Adrien Yanez's power? Well, I'm not really fading his power so much as I am believing in the durability. 0 of their 5 combined losses, and we've got 3 losses for Yanez and 2 for Kelley. None of them have been finishes. We got 2 very durable guys here. And I think, like I said, Tony Kelley's path to victory is to not stand in front of Adrien Yanez. He's either going to have to pressure the shit out of him or work into that clinch. And if he does that, I can easily see this fight going the full 3 rounds. Adrien Yanez has got a cast iron chin. Tony Kelley's got a cast iron chin. The only way I see Yanez knocking him out is with a body shot. I saw Kai Kamaka having a lot of success with the body shots against Tony Kelley. And I think maybe that's how Yanez knocks him out. But I'm betting on their durability. I'm betting on the fact that bantamweight fights only finish about 50% of the time. and I'm getting plus 128 actually on FanDuel here. So it's only a 43% implied probability. Fights are going to decision 50% of the time at the bantamweight division. So that's a 6.7% edge over that line. And then if we go to the fight goes here, you can see that 3 of their 8 fights have went to decision. So we're only overpaying by about 6.4%. But like I said, it's a bet on the durability here because all 5 of their combined losses have been decisions. So the third leg is the Yanez Kelley fight goes to decision. And then the last line is going to be Court McGee by decision. Like I said, Court McGee has grappled with some of the best 170-pounders in the division. He does his best when he's able to own the control time positions, get takedowns, and win minutes and tire out his opponent. And I think Jeremiah Wells is a perfect archetype of opponent to be able to, for Court to be able to work this game. He's going to be able to catch him coming in with those big looping shots that Wells throws, duck under them, reactive double legs, put him on his ass, make him wear Court's weight, wear on him in the clinch. And Jeremiah Wells is somebody who's so explosive early, but you know, if Court wears on him and makes him fight his fight and drags him into the deep water, I think he's going to get the job done. Plus 175. It makes this even fatter for the foreleg. So guess what? If we do, fight doesn't go to decision for Duraev Buckley and Cerrone Lozon, Yanez Kelley fight goes to decision, and Court McGee by decision on FanDuel. This is eligible for insurance, which means that if 3 of the 4 legs cash, we get a free bet in the amount of the parlay up to $25 the next week. But this thing is coming in at plus 1354, half unit to win almost 7. Let's get this greasy 4-leg parlay. Last week's was miserable. So let's get all 4 legs this week, stack those winning tickets, get them up to the ceiling, make some money, have some flapjacks with butter and syrup. Let's make that money. 1 order of business left, you guys. 95 of you guys hanging out in here for just the tip. Almost midnight here on a Tuesday, hanging out with your Uncle Weezy. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. God bless each and every one of you guys. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button over at the MMA Engine YouTube channel if you haven't already. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed over there. You got us monetized just before the fights went live on Saturday, and we really appreciate that from the bottom of our heart, and we're going to continue to give you some really good content over there at the MMA Engine YouTube channel as well. But you guys, we have one more order of business left to go here, and I think you know what it is. It's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. So who's it going to be? We have got some really good candidates this week. Yanez Kelley's a great fight. Could be asses shaved there. Dolidze Daukaus. Hawes Winn. We got McGee Wells. Wells is explosive. Ramos Chavez, not so much. I think that one's going to decision. Wineland Stamann, too wide a line. Oliveira to Paula, no. Jasudavicius Silva, no. Marquez Rodrigues, there could be some violence there, you guys. Ismagulov against Dolidze should be a close fight. Buckley Duraev could be an ass shaving. Means Holland could be an ass shaving. Cerrone Lozon could be an ass shaving. The main event could be an ass shaving. What do you guys think? I see Justin Villegas in there saying Kevin Holland ass shaving. Keep it cool saying it's got to be Buckley as a dog. That would be a guess one. DK saying I'm going to guess Yanez for the shaving. And let's see what do you got here. Bless up Uncle Weezy, says my guy Bo Jackson. We got ass shaving of the week coming here. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I am going with my gut on this one. You know, there's a matchup that I absolutely hate for one of these guys, and that is going to be this one. Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week this week is going to be Phil Hawes to shave the ass of Deron Winn if and only if the weight cut doesn't shave Winn's ass first. So, look, By the way, I forgot to ask, has Deron Winn pulled out of this fight yet, you guys? Let's refresh the UFC stats page. Go to the fight night, see if this fight has been called off yet, if Deron Winn has pulled out with hurt feelings yet. No, it still says he's there. So if Deron Winn makes weight, and I don't think he will, if Deron Winn shows up into that cage, and I don't think he will, that will be Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. But I'm so confident that Deron Winn does not show up for his ass shaving that I'm going to give you a backup ass shaving just in case the Hawes Winn fight doesn't happen for the third straight time. This one is going to be, and I'm riding with my guy here, Kevin Holland over Tim Means. The power, the youth, the length, the hunger, dropping to 170 pounds, having to deal with that middleweight power for so long. Tim Means not really being able to win minutes on the ground and avoid the striking exchanges where Holland is going to be so dangerous. That will be the secondary ass shaving of the week, you guys. Tim Means to get his ass shaved by Kevin Holland, but the first in line for the ass shaving of the week is going to be my guy Phil Hawes with the blonde hair going out there to shave the bowling ball-like body from head to toe of Deron Winn if he does show up for this fight. Thank you so much to each and every one of you guys. Still 91 of you guys hanging out in here. Appreciate each and every one of you. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to the MMA Engine YouTube channel. You can find me tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Central Time, on the Pub Sports Radio channel for the DFS show that I do with DFS by the Numbers, Monk Maddox, and our guy Gordo Gambles. And then you can find me Wednesday night, right back here tomorrow night, 10:30 Central Time, after the Club and Sub podcast. Shout out to my guy Luke, Sparring with Reality Betting, who's going to be on UFC Fight Pass this weekend with the Greek gambler, Yanni the Greek, and with Nick Kalikas, the owner of Circa Sportsbook. So, my God, what a great thing for Luke, my guy, to be on the UFC Fight Pass. So I'm looking forward to seeing him there. Check that out. And then Wednesday night, 10:30 Central Time, after the Club and Sub podcast, check me out right back here for Ask Weezy. You can ask me any questions about any of the 24 fight or 28 fighters or 14 fights on this card. And then on Thursday, check me out on the MMA Engine YouTube channel for Probability. We're going to go through all 14 fights on this card, look at the finish rates of the fighters, look at the finish rates for the divisions, look at the lines, and then find value, find spots to bet. That greasy four-legger this week has got 3-time props in there, and I worked really hard to dig those out. Let's hope that we cash this greasy four-legger at plus 1,300 or better. And you guys, the only order of business left is to stack cashed tickets like flapjacks for UFC Austin. Thank each and every one of you guys for hanging out, and I'll see you right back here on my channel, 10:30 Central Time, for Ask Weezy tomorrow night. I'm going to get to bed, you guys. Have a great night, and let's make some money for UFC Austin.